Welcome to the Bitcoin podcast. We in out chat. Bitcoins, we got them. Acquire, never sell. But catch us rolling deep like Adele. Bitcoin, blockchains, cryptocurrencies. Three guys faded talking Bitcoin, no fee. That's the free Bitcoin podcast, insane. And adoption is still the only thing that matters, man.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Litecoin podcast, episode 126.
126 episodes of the Litecoin podcast.
Woohoo!
Yep. I'm your first host, Marcello.
And I'm host number 2D.
Host number 3, Corey. So it's been fun making the Litecoin podcast all this time.
Yeah, man. Talking about Litecoin every week and how fast
our
it
patience
is.
finally paid off.
That's right. How long does it take confirmations? 2.5 minutes.
We told you so. We've been telling you so for 2 years now.
We've been doing this.
What'd you say, Cello?
Cello was
sound
gone.
like Tron right now.
Cello's gone. He left.
Cello, you sound like you're a sick Decepticon. That's what you sound like you're a Decepticon that has the flu. He is officially gone.
Internet is garbage.
Is it storming over there? You sound better now.
I think your children are watching cartoons.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
You need to go lay the hammer down.
This is like closer to like episode 30 of our podcast, like when we were just talking, and somebody always had a problem with audio. At any there's dogs and birds barking in the background of Brazil. Well, anyway, Cello, if your microphone works, hit him with an ad.
All right. We're brought to you by escrowmybits.com each and every week.
Still.
What's up?
We're still brought to you by escrowmybits.com.
Yep. Still
well, potentially. It's fast, it's super easy, and it only takes 3 steps. All you have to do is register and deposit your Bitcoin, maybe your Litecoin, but for now, your Bitcoin. Seller ships the item, buyer checks the goods and releases the funds. And they also offer the Bitcoin escrow with a locked exchange rate. So I'm talking euros, yen, Canadian money, maybe, USD. They got you covered. No problem. They're going to charge a small flat escrow fee of 1% on all escrow transactions. And they even offer you the ability to split the fee with the other party. So they've thought of everything. And we want there to be no longer any excuses. No more excuses. Start that process. Go to that website and make sure you sign up for that newsletter and stay up to date, where you can escrow your shit with
escrowmybits.com. All right.
Well, we got a special show today on the Litecoin podcast.
Yeah, we do. Banger of a show.
That's right. Have you guys ever heard of a guy called Charlie Lee?
Satoshi Light, if you will.
Have you heard of him?
Satoshi Light?
Satoshi Light. He's the guy that made Litecoin.
Yeah. He's the creator of Litecoin. I wonder what it feels like to be the creator of a coin that is popular. Vitalik. I know he probably doesn't think much of it because Vitalik is an individual, but Charlie Lee is not Vitalik. So do you think there's a lot of pressure for him?
He's been around the scene for so long. I mean, he created Litecoin as kind of like a curiosity, and so that was back when creating an altcoin was almost literally forking the Bitcoin code and then changing a few parameters. For instance, he did block time and the issuance rate, things like that. There might be some other differences. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head, and then starting a network, and people just did that over and over and over again. And Litecoin was the one that actually built up a network, other than like Dogecoin, a few others. But over time, it just stayed persistent, and it also did script mining. So instead of doing the normal proof of work that was not resistant to ASICs, Litecoin was created to try and keep people from having specialized hardware so they can do it on GPUs and so on and so forth. And so when we started mining, that's what we got into was mining Litecoin and then trading it for Bitcoin or whatever else we wanted to keep.
Yep. Mining the old Litecoin. I remember that.
Yeah.
It's good times. Let the good times roll.
That's how you coaxed me to get into Bitcoin.
Was mining Litecoin.
Coerced.
Coaxed.
Right.
That's how you coaxed me.
I said, we're going to make a mining operation and we're going to make millions of dollars and it's going to be huge. It's going to be the best mining operation you've ever seen. Let me tell you.
I blew my boss's mind today. We were at lunch and I was like, man, you seen Litecoin? He's like, no, what's up with Litecoin? It gained a lot of money. He just looked at me like, what? Like, yeah, man, it just jumped up recently. They passed SegWit and people starting to develop on it. A lot of changes. A lot of people are jumping in because it's basically a carbon copy of Bitcoin with a few parameters changed. All of that hard work that's been pumped into trying to change things in Bitcoin, all of the infrastructure that's been built up that hasn't been ported over, is almost trivial to port over to Litecoin. And so they can make rapid development because SegWit has been changed. And so people are just like, all right, I'll just try all that stuff I've been developing and see how it works over there.
Dang.
Instead, like, there's not if you can't do that with Ethereum because Ethereum's so drastically different at a fundamental level. Litecoin is just like, all right, change a few numbers, bam. It's obviously a little complicated than that, but relatively speaking.
Yeah, but is it though? I mean, Litecoin is just a carbon copy. Like you said, it's almost a carbon copy of Bitcoin.
You have script mining. There's
that's true.
Probably some testing and a few things, but like think about the Bitcoin. I mean, the Lightning Network already worked on the Litecoin testnet. It works flawlessly without changing anything.
Oh man, I think my jeans just got tight.
So back to like me telling my boss, he's like,
that means I have a boner.
I have a computer in my house that has 900 Litecoin on it. I better go find that computer. I was like, yeah, man, it's not worth nothing anymore. And it's like, I gotta go. And just like left.
I've got to get the fuck out of here. Yeah, man. So if he has 900 on that bad boy, what's 9 times 16, 90, 54, 14400, 14,000? Damn. Woo.
9 times 16, 14,400 if it's at $16, which it's currently not. But
it's not. It dropped down a little bit. It's like 15 something.
Let's see. Crypto Watch.
Hey,
Crypto Watch. Give us a sponsorship. I'm using your shit right now.
They're bought by Kraken. We need to talk to Kraken, right?
We've had Jesse Powell on. I can talk to Kraken.
You mean your older brother?
It's at 13.3. That's LTC futures. Take that back. It's at 1480, according to Coinbase.
1480 is not bad. It was at 16 at one point. But I want to switch it to Bitcoin for a little bit. I know this is the Litecoin podcast, and we typically talk about Litecoin and how amazing it is. It's so fucking silver. And that L emblem, oh my God. L must stand for lightning fast. Anyways, I want to talk about Bitcoin because I think I tweeted the other day, and the tweet was something along the lines of, I feel like Jihan is acting exactly the way he's supposed to act, and Bitcoin is behaving exactly the way it's supposed to behave, systematically. Like, it's rooting out people that aren't really good for the system.
We talked about that guy, Jihan.
On the
interview, I said, "Hey, Charlie, Jihan says that you haven't been doing anything." What are your feelings on that?
And did he say, "Oh, well, John Cena his ass"?
Charlie is really good at being. I'm gonna say he's very good at being political, but that sounds bad. But he's really good at answering. Yeah, he's really good at answering questions. You know, when I throw like a little heat on it, he's really good at lobbing it back at me.
That's something that I found pretty I guess refreshing or nice, is that like having this celebrity that he has and potentially has an influence associated with someone who's been in the space that long and created something that has a lot of backing behind it and works at Coinbase, and like so he handles the way, like the irrationality of people trying to accuse him of so many things that probably aren't true. Like he takes the celebrity, because it's really easy to be deified in a space if you do something special. And most of the time, if you're doing something special, it's because you're curious about like the technology and you try it out and it works and people follow you behind you and for whatever reason or whatever. But like the main, you're not doing things to become a celebrity in this space. It just happens. Like, look at Vitalik. Vitalik didn't set out to become the person he is. He wanted to create something that he couldn't do on Bitcoin. And it's gained so much momentum that this project is way bigger than him. But now he's been deified, and he has to deal with that. And it's interesting to see how different people who end up gaining celebrity so quickly, how they deal with it. And I think Charlie Lee's dealt with
us,
it
man.
really, really well. It is us. We are the bosses of bosses.
I guarantee you, if we walk into a convention, people will not know who we are.
Nope.
And then we'll have to go to the bathroom and put our shirts on and come back out. And they'll be like, "Oh, you guys listen to the Bitcoin podcast?" And we'll be like, "Okay, let's put on our name tags." All right, we actually make the damn show. Okay, that's
why our new logo is gonna have our faces on it.
Yeah. So people can't get confused.
Let's go to the interview, but like I guess we need to introduce him very well because we just kind of jumped right into it. Like Charlie was kind of like, you guys gonna do introductions? And Charlie was like, nope, question time. I don't care.
Can we reenact it?
All right, let's play a game. I'm gonna introduce Charlie, and then you guys try to add something onto it. Okay. We're gonna interview Charlie Lee. He's the creator of Litecoin.
Go ahead, D.
You know what I'm saying?
What do you wait?
That's what I'm saying. He wants this grand intro, but he's like,
oh, I get what you're saying. Like, what
there's
else?
not really much to say.
Well, no, typically when you do an interview, you're like, hey man, who are you? What are you doing? What are you up to? Where you come from? So, like all of our interviews are like that. It's always a matter of like,
knows him, so I'm in Cello's court. I'm in Cello's court on this one. It's like, hey, here's Charlie Lee. He created Litecoin. That's it. There's not much more to say.
Works at Coinbase. He's done all kinds of things. Maybe he wants to introduce himself as a boxcar racer. Like, you don't know what people want to be introduced as.
But I mean, if you've been living under a rock and you listen to it, hey, what's going on this week? It's Litecoin SegWit activation. Why does it matter? What's next? Litecoin price surged to a 3-year high as the tech upgrade nears. There was an 8-hour miner meeting about Litecoin scaling agreement. I mean, we see the headlines, and boom, we got Charlie Lee. Like, what's up?
Show's like down and dirty. Let's get to it.
We're not talking about his boxcar career when all this stuff's in the headlines. We know what's up.
I don't want to talk about your drone hobby, Charlie Lee. I want to talk about Litecoin because that's what you make.
All right. Well, in that case, I'm sure the listeners are also curious about what he wants to say about it. So why don't we jump to it?
All right. So without further ado, here is the world's premier boxcar fashioner, Charlie Lee. Here it is.
All right. I guess my first question is kind of something that I wanted to address. Something you just said. If you don't mind me putting words in your mouth, you kind of called Litecoin in the past a little bit boring, and then the community didn't really hear much about it. And I mean, from a community aspect, you seem to be largely absent from the developer community until SegWit. Is this like a so-called resurrection for Litecoin after a time of dormancy? Like, how would you phrase it?
So, I mean, it seems like I was dormant, but I've always been kind of working on Litecoin behind the scene. We've had Warren Togami, who was leading the Litecoin development, and a few other people working on it, and I was always kind of working with them. On basically, most of the work was to make sure the network is stable and merge in Bitcoin's latest code and release it, package up, release it, and just make sure everything is running good. And basically, for the longest time, that's all that was needed, right? So as a currency, Litecoin worked flawlessly. It had fast confirmation times. There's no scaling issue, and it worked just as well as Bitcoin. And then recently, last year, when we thought about doing SegWit, we realized that Litecoin could actually get SegWit activated before Bitcoin, and in some sense help Bitcoin test out some of the new, latest and greatest technologies and help Bitcoin get past the scaling debate. So that's when I started to actually focus a lot more time and energy on it. And it turned out to be a lot harder than I expected. I thought the miners will all agree that after being so boring for so many years that SegWit seems like an obvious choice to add to Litecoin to improve things, but that turned out to be a lot harder to convince all the miners and pools to do it.
Do you think that their concerns were based on a lack of understanding or concerns about technical debt, or maybe copying of Bitcoin, maybe worried it might lead to more outcries of SegWit on Bitcoin or other interests?
The concerns were, I think most people, SegWit was sold as a scaling solution in the Bitcoin space. And unfortunately, that caused people to only see it as a scaling solution. And a lot of people didn't actually realize what SegWit came with. And for Litecoin, since we didn't have a scaling problem, a lot of people were like, why do we need SegWit? But in reality, SegWit allows us to do like Lightning networks, to do a lot of other things with soft fork, like confidential transactions, mass, and a few other things. It basically it's a huge improvement for Bitcoin and Litecoin. So miners didn't understand that. There's also the issue with most Litecoin miners are also Bitcoin miners. Litecoin pools are also run Bitcoin pools, and they make more money from Bitcoin because of block rewards, or because Bitcoin price is a lot higher than Litecoin. So they, due to like Bitcoin politics, they would not want to support it on Litecoin also.
So yeah, I found that interesting about kind of the I guess almost ignorance of what SegWit actually does because of the politicalization. Maybe that's the correct word. How political it was about what SegWit was sold as. It was sold as this scaling solution when in fact it's more of a step required to do scaling solutions. And it comes along with these other really great features that allow you to do really great, other advancements in the protocol. Do you see like SegWit on Litecoin activating SegWit on Bitcoin, or more just this like a growth of Litecoin becoming this everyday transaction type of cryptocurrency, while Bitcoin maintains this like secure settlement layer?
I think a bit of both. If Bitcoin never like changes, it's still like the best store of value, right? It's not, and it might be the feature of Bitcoin is just it resists change, right? It just won't change for anyone. And in some sense that's bad. It won't improve. But in another sense, it's like kind of good because it wouldn't no single group can kind of mold Bitcoin into what they want as opposed to what it is good for right now, which is the best store of value. And for Litecoin, I mean, like I see Litecoin as always complementing Bitcoin to be more of a form of payment for buying smaller things where it may cost like 50 cents to $1 to send $1 million in Bitcoin, and you want the security and decentralization when you're moving that much money. But when you're just buying coffee or like a meal, you don't really need your payment to be irreversible, decentralized, and secure. So you would use something like Litecoin. So that's why I'm seeing this. And in terms of what like a SegWit on Litecoin would do for Bitcoin, I am hoping that it can help move this along or make it easier for people to make this happen quicker on Bitcoin. So like things like Lightning Network working on Litecoin would kind of prove this solution and show people that this is actually a good scaling solution for Bitcoin. And I mean, we started to, a lot of people have reached out to us already to kind of work on Litecoin, like different libraries, wallets, Lightning Network teams. So it would be cool to kind of like have the infrastructure, since Bitcoin and Litecoin are so similar. If the infrastructure started supporting SegWit on Litecoin, it will be a very simple change for Bitcoin once Bitcoin has SegWit. So people will realize, wow, this is just working so well. SegWit is such a good thing for Litecoin, and hopefully it can help convince the miners to activate SegWit on Bitcoin also.
Another thing that I kind of had, like you mentioned that Litecoin doesn't have any problems with scale, and that's more of an issue of the fact that it doesn't have the demand that Bitcoin has. And you don't know if it has problems with scale because you're not big enough to have problems with scale. As like SegWit's passed, and you get all this attention that you've recently like dealt with, you think that Litecoin is going to be able to handle this giant influx of usability, and if it doesn't, how does that how do you move forward?
Well, first thing, it will be a good problem to have if we actually have,
of course, yeah,
an issue with supply not meeting demand. But off the get-go, we have 4 times the capacity of Bitcoin because we have 1 megabyte blocks that happen every 2.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So the throughput is already 4 times the size of Bitcoin. And with SegWit and Lightning, it's going to help us scale even more if we need to. Right. So if people use Litecoin on-chain for coffees and meals, then they can use Lightning for micropayments. Right. So we'll move all the micropayments to Lightning Network on Litecoin. And I don't see we'll have any scaling problems. And if we do, I think we'll have like many years to go before we actually run into any scaling issues. And by then, I mean, we're looking into solutions to solve this scaling problem. So I think by the time we need it, we'll be ready. So unfortunately, like Bitcoin ran into a scaling problem before the solutions are ready, right? Lightning was still in the works. It wasn't going to help out with scaling right away. And that's why Bitcoin had this problem. But Litecoin, I think we just have more time.
Yeah, Charlie, earlier you made a comment that miners acting against like short-term market movements in reaction to protocol upgrades is a sign of a broken system. How did the miners in that roundtable view the market movements in reaction to signaling and Bitmain's perceived blocking attempt?
So initially, when we first started talking to the miners, in some sense, it's just the pools that are kind of in control. From what I know, miners don't really care too much. They obviously want what they're mining to be worth more, but most of them are just blindly just mining and buying equipment and then mining the coins, and not really that into the scaling issue or the SegWit
Would you call
activation.
it like an aspect of apathy?
I would say it's more, for a lot of miners, it's more just like business.
Okay.
They're just they may not even believe in cryptocurrency. They see opportunity to make money, put in some investment, buy some machines, have it run 24/7, and it's just printing money, right? So that's all they care about, as long as it's printing money. They don't really understand the technical details about the cryptocurrency or SegWit or anything. I mean, that's not all the miners are like this, obviously, but I would say quite a few are kind of like this, and
they're not driven by ideology; they're driven by the cash flow that they're printing.
Pretty much, yeah. And as long as they don't want to make decisions, right? They don't want to make protocol decisions. They don't know anything about protocols. They don't care to make decisions. As long as we make the right decision and we don't kill their cash cow, they'll be happy. So it's hard to kind of get miners to understand this and to support SegWit, right? So it mostly comes down to like the 5 or 6 big pools. If we manage to convince the pools to start signaling to support SegWit, then it will activate. What I saw was that even though it was obvious that SegWit was helping the price, miners are not like immediately flocking to the pools that are signaling. They just don't even realize what's going on, I think.
Isn't
So
that
back
kind of
to
ironic about the fact that the people who are responsible for making protocol changes are the ones that are most apathetic to protocol changes?
yeah, that it is, and that's why this whole miner signaling or miner voting for protocol changes is kind of a silly idea to begin with, because miners they're getting paid to mine, right? And they're getting paid to secure the network. That's their job, and that they get paid for that. And they don't know too much about the protocol. So asking them to make the decision whether not to do SegWit versus BU versus whatever flexible transactions or whatnot, it seems silly that they're making the decision. Actually, a few years ago during like the first scaling conference in, where was it? I think it was Hong Kong. I remember the miners they're on stage and they were talking about that they don't really want to make this decision because they don't know, they're not in the know in terms of protocol and what's best. So there's no reason why we should ask them to make this decision. And I fully agree with that. But these days it seems like some of the miners or pools are kind of, they now realize how powerful being able to make this decision is, and they're taking advantage of that. So back to what we were originally talking about. So in January, when I was talking to the major pools for Litecoin about signaling for SegWit, basically the feeling I got was that they supported SegWit on Litecoin. They didn't think that it would help with the price, and they didn't want SegWit on Litecoin to kind of undermine their position on Bitcoin, because they've already been some of them are quite against Bitcoin Core, and they feel like if SegWit kind of activates on Litecoin, it would help it would make their position on Bitcoin, their position on Bitcoin wouldn't make much sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would kind of lose to, they don't want to support Bitcoin Core, the Bitcoin Core team. And so that was a political battle that I kind of didn't expect, because for Litecoin, I mean, if my thinking was that if miners are not acting in the best interest of Litecoin, then it doesn't work, right? The system is fundamentally broken when the miners are acting in the best interest of Bitcoin and not Litecoin.
Well, the beauty of the ideology behind Nakamoto consensus is that you have trustlessness through people acting in their own self-preservation, right?
Correct.
You get consensus through proper incentivization.
Yeah, but it's external to Litecoin, which is the problem, right?
Yeah.
So if we think about in Bitcoin space, if the government comes in and gives all miners a lot of money to attack Bitcoin, yes, they will be acting in their best interest, which will hurt Bitcoin because of something that's external to Bitcoin, right? If it's only within the Bitcoin space, then it would make sense for them to just mine and earn the block reward and the fees and help protect Bitcoin. But if there's an external force that is giving them incentive to not do that, then it's bad for Bitcoin. So this is a similar situation with Litecoin, where they are doing something that hurts Litecoin because it's better for them in the Bitcoin space.
So how do we move forward? What's the solution? Is it a fundamentally broken problem, or is this working as intended? This is a feature, not a bug.
I mean, eventually what I did was we kind of had to prove to the pools that SegWit was actually good for Litecoin, right? that actually people wanted it, all the Litecoin supporters wanted it, and two, it would actually help the price rise, which is good for miners.
Yeah,
right.
That's a good incentive.
Yeah, and put some like kind of public pressure on them to support it, right? So even though they may not care about making a little bit more money in Litecoin, the miners actually care and the users care. So it puts pressure on the pools to do what their miners and users want. So in order to do that, I kind of had to convince people to go against status quo, right? So I talked to an individual miner who had like 10% of the global hash rate, a pretty big miner, and I convinced him to signal for SegWit, and then once he started that, I think the price did go up a little bit, but he was like the only person in China that was signaling for SegWit, and he was kind of being a bit ostracized from the rest of the miners and pools because of that, and he was getting a lot of pressure to stop signaling for SegWit. So it took me a lot to kind of convince him to stay the course. And then F2 pool, after talking to him for a while, the owner decided to, I think he believed that SegWit is good and he supported us. So F2 pool started signaling. The few days before he started signaling, the price shot up because I assumed the news leaked. Because he told me a week before that he's going to signal the next week. So I knew, our team knew, but we didn't tell anyone, but I assumed the news leaked because the price in the Chinese market started shooting up first. So someone in China leaked. And then the price shot up, he started signaling, and then from that point onwards, like the price of Litecoin was in lockstep with the signaling percentage. When the percentage went up, the price went up. When the percentage dropped, the price dropped. When Wang Chen, the owner of F2 Pool, said anything kind of negative about signaling, he mentioned that he might stop signaling, and the market crashed. So it became more obvious that the market actually wanted SegWit. So it was like the first chip, and then slowly we're talking to more and more different pools and trying to convince them, and then bad pools started signaling the price, and then I forget, and then it was who else started signaling? BW eventually started signaling, and then before we knew it, the signaling percentage was higher than 75%, and it was about to activate, and then more hash rate came in. It seems like Jihan and the owner of LTC, one BTC pool, were blocking it because they really didn't want SegWit to activate on Litecoin.
That's quite a dance of like politics, would you say? Like, is this what you thought you'd be getting into when you got into the cryptocurrency space?
No. I mean, when I first created Litecoin, like I pretty much had like full control of where the protocol would go, right? I would change some things.
And Satoshi Light is an appropriate moniker for yourself.
Yeah. So it's kind of like silly that I would have to like talk to pool owners to convince them that this is the best thing to do for Litecoin, when like pretty much like everyone agrees. Like people who are in the space know that for the past like 3 years, we haven't done too much in terms of like technology improvements to Litecoin. So SegWit is like an awesome thing to try on Litecoin. But then it's all politics, which is it's kind of sad.
Well, Charlie, in a perfect world, like if you could like command this, how do you think the community desires should be represented?
Well, when I first talked about SegWit, I mentioned to people that if like everyone wants SegWit on Litecoin, like a few pool owners should not be able to stop that from happening, right? So if users of Litecoin all want this, why is this feature being kind of blocked by a few parties? So the idea was the user activated soft fork, right? Basically, if users all want it and exchanges serve the users, wallets all serve users, right? If the users all want it, then exchanges would actually just run this code that would activate this feature after like a year or a certain amount of time, and wallets will all run that code. And after a year, it would just work because SegWit it's a soft fork and it's opt-in. If you don't want to use SegWit transactions, you don't have to. So it's not really like hurting anyone to have it in there. So that was the idea that if people really wanted it, then it will happen. So I was never really in doubt that SegWit would activate on Litecoin. It's just a matter of when and how, whether it's through miner activated BIP9 or it's user activated, which could take longer, or even the most drastic case would be a hard fork, right? If everyone wanted it and miners are really blocking it, then you hard fork away. If user activate doesn't work, then you do something drastic like a hard fork. So I was never in doubt that we'll get SegWit, but it's nice that we finally able to convince the miners and pools to signal and activate it via miner activation, because that's like the safest way forward.
Yeah,
in
it's
the end
kind
of
of
the
the
day,
standard way that we have precedence for already.
Well, yeah, but in reality, like Satoshi and even Gavin did soft forks with user activation way back when.
Oh yeah.
So it's like miner activation is kind of a relatively new thing, and it was never supposed to be controversial. Like you don't try to activate this soft forks, controversial soft forks this way. Soft forks are not supposed to be controversial. So we've activated like quite a few soft forks on Bitcoin, like CSV. Basically, it takes like a few months before all the miners upgrade. The idea with BIP9 is that developers release code and miners take months to actually update to the latest code, right? It's like upgrading your Windows computer. When the latest Windows Windows version comes out, you don't upgrade right away. You wait a little while. Eventually, 95% of miners or pools have all upgraded. And once they've upgraded, then you can lock in the soft fork. And once the soft fork is locked in, then you can start using whatever feature the soft fork provided. And I think the Bitcoin developers did go out and talk to miners about SegWit, and miners all agreed at that time, I think like 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half, that SegWit was the way to go. It provided transaction malleability fix. It provided ways to do soft forks in the future to improve scaling. It has a small scaling bump to alleviate the current scaling problem. So it was like a win-win-win solution. And at that time, miners were all in agreement. So that's why the developers actually worked a year on this and released it as a BIP9 soft fork, and didn't realize that it would run to such a political environment.
Well, I feel like the political environment stems from the fact that a lot of people have almost operate out of fear when they make decisions with changing the Bitcoin protocol because they've invested so much money. And when you kind of base your decision making out of that mentality, you tend to stick to nothing can change because I don't want to lose any money. So progress gets really stagnant. And the fact that Litecoin was able to do this gives us a precedent, an example to alleviate a lot of the fear that a lot of people like base their decisions out of. You feel like that's a legitimate thing to say?
Yeah, it is. And I think that's a good thing. Like, people are afraid of change because they don't want to destroy Bitcoin, right? They don't want anything that hurts Bitcoin. The kind of the improvements that SegWit bring may not be worth the risk that it is on the network, because risk of unknown, right? So if when SegWit activates on Litecoin with Lightning Network and all this other cool stuff, we can kind of prove that this is safe, right? It actually works as we expect it to, and it does provide a lot of value, and it's worth it. So yeah, it definitely does help alleviate that fear.
All right. So, like, what do you look forward to now that it's happened? Like, what are some positive notes? What do you see happening quickly now that SegWit has been activated? Where do you see the future going?
So the great news is that a lot of people have actually reached out to us, to the team, and wanted to kind of work with us and to port Bitcoin libraries and wallets to Litecoin, to actually, because they all appreciate what SegWit brings to Litecoin and Bitcoin, and they want to help make it happen. So I'm very excited to work with all these people on Litecoin. The first thing we are kind of working on is Lightning Network. We want to see that running on Litecoin ASAP, and hopefully we'll have something actually working by the time SegWit activates in 2 weeks, and actually be able to test out Lightning Network on Litecoin. Other things I'm excited about is to explore confidential transactions. So with SegWit, confidential transactions can be done as a soft fork, and that's exciting. Like, I think one thing that the only major thing missing from Bitcoin and Litecoin in terms of like being good money is fungibility, and I think that's one thing that we can slowly fix for Bitcoin and Litecoin. And confidential transaction is kind of halfway towards like a perfectly fungible currency.
It's more closer to the peer-to-peer transaction without any type of third party knowing what's going on.
Yeah. And it's not, for me, it's definitely not about like buying drugs. It's more about like when you're using money, you don't want to have to decide which of the coins to spend due to it having some history. So if let's say I bought like 10 Bitcoins on the exchange, I deposit into my wallet, and I want to pay someone for coffee or for whatever, right? I want to pay someone $5 back for lunch. If I send him $5 from those 10 Bitcoins, then he knows that I have like 10 Bitcoins or $10,000, right? And he can track where that money came from and when I'm using it, when I spend it next. It seems kind of silly that by paying him $5, all of a sudden he has access to some information about how much money I have, where I'm storing it, how I'm using it. And because of that, I know most of you, like people who are listening to this podcast, have all like, when they're sending money, have all like try to figure out like which coin I want to use to send that money, or like do some kind of like money management of like these coins are more private and these coins are like already mixed and more public. It seems kind of silly that users have to like even think about that. It's like if you go out and you take your wallet out to pay someone, you have to decide which of the $20 bills to use, because one of the $20 bills is tied to something that is more private you don't want people to know about. It's kind of silly for money. It is. So yeah. So this is definitely something I want to explore. And there's a lot of other cool things that SegWit allows us to do.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I was curious. I kind of see what this technology is trying to really distill what's required when sending someone value over the internet. And for the longest time, based on the infrastructure that we had, it required you to go through a third party and people to kind of know what you did and so on and so forth. And since the advent of Bitcoin and everything since then, we realized that there's a lot of things you can take out of the equation, that you can send things over the internet that don't require you to like include all this other information. And as we continue to go along this route, we're finding more and more about what we can take out of the equation when we send somebody a scarcity over the internet. And like it's things like SegWit that allow us to continue that movement forward. And it's hard to portray that to people who don't even understand kind of the basics. Like how do we go forward in educating people about what we're doing and why it's important?
Is that a question for me?
Sure. I mean, just shooting it up in the air. Like that's kind of the issue right now we have with this technology is that like it's people don't quite get it. Is that the way it's always going to be, or is it something that we have to change the mentality?
No, I think it's the way it's always going to be. It's kind of in the end, people would just want to use kind of Bitcoin or Litecoin as money, and they don't need to know about how it works, right? It's just kind of like a credit card. It's simple to use, and you have no idea what happens in the background. When you swipe a card, it probably goes through like 5 different like computers or networks to figure out like a fraud system or a payment system. Just it does a lot before it comes back and say authorized. So for a consumer, you don't really care, right? As long as it works and you get what you're buying, you're happy. So it will be same for Bitcoin and Litecoin. Like right now, in order to kind of use Bitcoin or Litecoin, you have to be a little bit technical. Like Coinbase does make things easier, but for the most part, it's still very early. It's still early adopters, and you kind of have to know what you're doing. I'd see in the future where it doesn't really matter. Like you can send Bitcoin to someone who only accepts Litecoin, and it just gets converted on the fly through Lightning networks, cross-chain transactions, and it just gets to where it needs to go and pays for whatever you need to pay, and you don't really care. So
well, that's kind of a beauty of having Litecoin the Lightning network activated on Litecoin, and as if this then catalyzes the activation of SegWit and the subsequent Lightning network on Bitcoin, that you can have this type of interoperability between chains if you could go through layer 2 technologies.
Yeah,
and
I'm very excited about that future.
That's another type of thing that most people don't quite understand, is that like that is a gateway towards this interoperability between blockchains that we're currently really missing within the space.
Yep. And I mean, we've just scratched the surface. I mean, it doesn't even work yet, right? Once Lightning is on Litecoin and Bitcoin, then we can really see like how useful it is. Maybe it's not. Maybe people wouldn't have any use to convert from Bitcoin to Litecoin or any other cryptocurrency. But I think it will be very useful, especially with like I think most of the cryptocurrencies are going towards having something like a Lightning network. Like Ethereum will have their Raiden network, right? If the Raiden network is interoperable with Litecoin's Lightning network, then you can send some Litecoin and convert it to Ether and use that to power some dApp, right? So you don't have to store Ether if you don't want to. You can just use Bitcoin or Litecoin and convert it on the fly as needed, right? It's kind of like if like a certain token is good for a specific app, you would only need to you don't need to hold that token unless you actually want to use that app. So I see this as like it's similar to like if you are at an arcade and arcade machines only accept their specific tokens, you don't need to hold those tokens when you go home, right? When you go there, you just convert your dollars to those tokens and use it to play the games. So similarly, you may not need to hold Ether. You only convert to Ether when you want to use it to power a specific dApp.
Yeah, like following along those lines, I've found that as kind of almost a problem on the horizon of this technology as it grows, because like even with just if you stay inside Ethereum, you're having this huge explosion of different tokens being used for different purposes, and the PKI associated with handling those tokens is something that I kind of get nervous about, especially when you deal with someone who's not very technical. They're not going to be able to understand what tokens are, what private keys are associated with what application, so on and so forth. And when you have this interoperability, you solve a lot of those issues. And it's a huge problem that, if not solved, will, I feel, break the adoption curve of everyday people getting into the space, because they're not willing to go through the learning curve to do what they want to do. So the things that they would like to do that would be more efficient or easier are never going to be easier unless we solve these simple problems first.
Yeah, and it's not and it will be solved, right? We're just early in the early stages. I mean, things will just get easier. So yeah, we just have to work on building out the user interface, the infrastructure that connects the different cryptocurrencies, and SegWit and Lightning is the first major step towards that.
All right, so here's a banger of a question. How does Coinbase fit into all this?
Well, Coinbase has always been trying to make Bitcoin and now crypto easy for just the regular average Joe. So it can abstract away the complexity of cryptocurrency and make it easier to buy and sell and hold various different cryptocurrencies. Yeah, and it's a lot of it has to do with the interoperability with the legacy fiat banks, right? How do you get into crypto? You have to go through the on-ramps, which has to touch the legacy banks, and that's actually not simple, as you can see.
Absolutely not.
Recently with Bitfinex having issues with fiat deposits and withdrawals. It's just not a simple problem. Legacy banking systems are hard to deal with. That's why you want to get into crypto. Once you're in crypto space, then everything becomes easier.
Yeah, Jesse Powell, in an interview we did a while back, said that's kind of the worst case scenario for having a business in the crypto space as an exchange, because you deal with all of the hard problems when everyone has almost all of the expectations and weight put on you, and the failure has the worst consequences. And from, I guess, as Coinbase, for a while ago, you took a step back from the wallet services and focused more on exchanges. Is it coming back around to making it still like the standard on-ramp for the everyday user, or are you still trying to kind of move closer towards we're going to push the exchange route?
I think we are. I mean, the exchange is our bread and butter. Our kind of integration with crypto and with the legacy banking system makes it easy for consumers to get into and out of crypto. So that's always going to be what makes us money. And we're exploring different things. I mean, we don't know what the killer app for crypto is currently for Bitcoin, Litecoin. It's right now, it's kind of just mostly on trading, right? Speculation. Yeah, speculation is a killer app. Store of value, right? So people just buy and sell and hold. So that's what we're focusing on. In terms of wallet, you know that we have a team working on a product called Token, which is our Ethereum wallet that we're kind of exploring and see where that goes. Make it easy for people to communicate and send money back and forth between users. So we'll see where that goes. But we're always exploring different aspects of crypto.
That was actually, I don't know if this is going to be a pressing question with Token, because I follow that scene quite a bit. Was the design decisions associated with Token specifically chosen to get to market quick because of competitor issues, or was it this is the best way to build this platform at its current stage? Is that even something you can comment on?
We were never focused on competitors. I think we just wanted to get something out there and see where it goes. I personally didn't really didn't have anything to do with the Token.
Yeah, Coinbase is quite a large project, or quite a large company. I'm assuming that the projects are.
Yeah, Yeah, but I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, so am I. I downloaded it. It's a great user interface, and it's something that I think is sorely needed. The mobile application of using these types of things, along with like a chat client that's all seamless, like very much the WeChat, if you will, of all of this, gets people into it and allows them to do things, a lot of different things in one user interface, while also transacting value amongst each other, which keeps bringing people back to the user interface and your platform.
Yeah. It's interesting that Coinbase has decided to kind of build it with Ethereum or Ether as the currency. My brother Bobby, his company BTCC also recently released a mobile wallet that is on Bitcoin, right? And they're doing everything on Bitcoin. So I don't know which will actually win in terms of which will be like the main currency.
The way I kind of see it is that I guess the decision to use Ethereum was because Ethereum speaks the language of all of the applications built on Ethereum. And in terms of, I guess, broad use cases, if you're trying to build a WeChat, then Ethereum is the right choice because you can use it and all of the tokens built on top of it within a single user interface.
Yep. But yeah, all these tokens that are built on top of Ethereum right now, we don't even know where that's going.
That's also very true. Those could all just be pumping up speculation. We really don't know because they're just starting to exist, and that's something that I try and push when I talk to people about all of the cool things happening. Is that it's really hard to compare this brand new ICO that just made millions of dollars with Bitcoin, because they don't have any experience or platform that you can get on and use. It's a matter of what's cool and what's going to happen. What do we hope is going to happen in the future versus what have we been doing for the past 5 years?
Mm-hmm. I think the whole ICO space is kind of scary to me. I think it might kind of implode. There's just too much money floating around for all future potential that I think a lot of it just won't be, that we won't see.
Well, it's become this idea of I can just grab a little bit, and if I grab a little bit of everything, something's going to explode to some drastic, profit margin. Well, that'll outpace everything that I lost associated with everything else that I got into. And I think that's the mentality of a lot of people investing in these ICOs, which then bolsters the idea of making ICOs based on bad ideas or poor execution of good ideas.
Yep. Because you don't need good execution. You can still get a piece of the pie.
Yep. You
don't need a good idea as long as you can sell it. So it's kind of, I try not to touch ICO personally.
It's a brave new world, and we're all kind of strapped onto the rocket ship, I guess. But it's the success of these types of things makes a difference in the success of the entire community, I would say. Regardless of whether or not Ethereum wins or dies, it has an effect on the crypto space in general.
Yeah.
Charlie, do you have anything else to ask?
No, this is a pretty fulfilling interview on all fronts.
Is there, Charlie? Is there anything else that we should have asked you that you'd like to tell our audience that we didn't?
Not that I can think of.
Should I ask the creator of Litecoin what he thinks about Bitcoin in 10 words or less?
Absolutely.
Charlie, could you give us your best answer on what is Bitcoin in 10 words or less?
What is Bitcoin in 10 words or less?
Or describe a Bitcoin.
So Bitcoin is a electronic currency that is not backed by government. What is that? 9 words?
That's 8 words.
8. You passed. Good job.
I started with electronic, so you got a couple wiggle room there.
Yeah.
Is that good enough?
That's perfect.
Barely scratches the surface.
Yeah, the amount of abstraction you have to go to get under 10 words is kind of phenomenal at this point, and we love it. All right. Well, Charlie, thanks for coming on the show. We've been hoping to get you on for quite a while, and I'm glad you stopped by to join us.
Sure. Thank you.
And that was the interview with Charlie Lee, the world's premier scuba diving gear collector.
He doesn't scuba dive,
so
just loves the gear.
Yeah, he doesn't scuba dive, just loves the look and feel of scuba gear. He's been collecting it for years, ever since around the 1990s, I'd say, when he was in his early 20s, probably teens.
So he's probably like it's probably like all
teens.
neon gear back then.
All neon and really rubbery gear. I mean, he could talk about scuba forever. Which, by the way, scuba means. What does it mean? Does it actually mean something?
Underwater breathing apparatus.
There we go. I knew it meant something.
I'm certified, bro.
I remember you because you had to get certified when you went to Mexico, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I know what taser means.
What does taser mean?
What does that mean?
It's Thomas A. Swift electronic rifle.
Really?
Why do you know that?
It's just one of those, useless knowledge things that rattles around in people's brains.
Been playing a lot of categories or something.
Yeah, but how arrogant is it if you create something that you put your name in the name of the thing you invent?
I've been trying to do that
Thomas
for
Swift.
years, man. I'm working on. I thought about doing some like physics equations that didn't work out, like the petty equations, or like the petty method.
Petty equation.
Just use the petty method on that, or like the petty transform.
That's such a petty thing to do.
Yeah, damn right.
It is actually. I use the petty method. Anything I name will probably just have like black sauce attached to it or something. So,
hey, Cello, where can I buy Bitcoin?
Well, there's a lot of different ways, but the way I would recommend that you buy Bitcoin is by using the most trusted name in ATMs, Bitcoin ATMs. That is.
Where can I find those?
You can find them in H-Town, Fort W, and D-Town. And I'm talking about Athena Bitcoin.
I don't live over there.
Where do you live?
I live in Maryland.
You know what? If you want to find out if it's near you, you're just going to have to download the Athena Bitcoin app wallet from the App Store or Google Play. And if you want even more information, Corey, you're going to have to go to athenabitcoin.com because they're always adding new locations.
Oh, so there's probably one near me.
There most likely is.
If you're on the East Coast. If you're on the East Coast, that is.
Hey, do you want some information on a portfolio company?
Yeah, who
I would like that. Like, I love portfolios. Give me some info. Lay it on me, bro.
Well, I just heard about this really cool website called bitquick.co, which is Athena Bitcoin's portfolio company. Yeah, dude, check it out. It's secure, quick, and easy, like all three.
I like all three of those things.
Yeah. Usually you only get like one or two, but like
secure and quick, but not easy.
No. That shit is like it's really quick, but it's hard. Which it's very frustrating. But this is secure, quick, and easy. And you can get Bitcoin for cash in as little as 3 hours. And they've been serving people since 2013, so they know what they're doing.
They got a pretty snazzy website.
Oh yeah.
I would love to have something that I built be called Snazzy.
Build something. I'll call it Snazzy.
I build all kinds of shit, man.
I'll tell you what, your mining rig, your Litecoin mining rig was snazzy.
That was snazzy. I actually designed that.
You had air conditioning ducts going to that thing, like exhausting to the outside.
Yeah, sometimes I surprise myself, but then other times I'm just like, fuck that technical shit. And then
that's how you really feel.
Excuse my language. We're supposed to not be cursing anymore, but
maybe one day we'll actually put the explicit label on our content.
Yeah.
Oh, I should do that. I'm gonna put a parental advisory.
Why?
Yeah.
Well,
because people,
do you think people will get more listens because it's hardcore? People like that?
No, actually the opposite. So the reason why we're not supposed to curse is a father wrote in saying he listened to it with his kid. But we can be like, well, bro, there's a parental advisory sticker on our iTunes thumb. That's your fault.
We told you so.
Told you so.
Can't do that now. That's totally our fault.
Yeah, we trick we trick everyone because we're just like, no, it's not parental advisory, and then I drop a lot of F-bombs. I know I do. It's a staple of my vocabulary.
Your F-bomb is like the number of F-bombs you speak is directly proportional to the number of drinks you've had.
That's very true, actually. I haven't had. No, I did have a glass of wine earlier. Yeah.
So ant bleed. How about that?
The more I drink, the more Fs I drink. I bomb. I drop.
How about ant bleed?
Anyways,
You want to talk about that?
I do want to talk about ant bleed because that is jacked, but at the same time, it's like selfish actors gonna be selfish.
Well,
like that's what they do. That's what you should expect.
I mean, come on. That's like
yeah.
I guess for the audience, would
bad.
you like to explain what ant bleed is?
Okay, so ant bleed audience is that in these miners, I think they were ant miners.
Ant miners.
They were actually sending a signal back, like to ant miner to like let ant miner know when the miner was connected, when the miner was mining, and then there was basically like a kill switch that they could hit and just turn off all the miners. And so ant miner doesn't.
Whoa! Is it a bug or a mistake?
They said it was a bug.
They said
it was a bug.
It's a call home switch. It's an undocumented call home function in all of the miners that Bitmain. I think it's S9. I forget which ant miner it is. Like every 1 to 11 minutes, it sends a signal back to ant miner servers to essentially verify that it's mining. And if it doesn't receive a return signal, it cuts off. It just stops mining.
Yeah.
So like, it's essentially controlling a product after you give it out to a customer.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it could be used for that. That's not necessarily what it was for. We don't know. It just based on potential. It's an attack vector, or if Antminer wanted to do that, Bitmain, who creates an Antminer, wanted to do that, they could just turn off every single one of those miners.
And that's Jihan, right? Yes, it is.
And then
go ahead, Joe.
And then it's, I guess, it sat in GitHub for 7 months.
Yeah, and so like the fix for this sat in GitHub for 7 months and just wasn't ever implemented. Granted, even if it was implemented and changed, the people who are out there probably would never update because as we've seen in the space, miners, even which is something we talked about with Charlie, is that like miners don't care. They just want to make money. They are a business. Yeah. They don't care about protocol changes. They're there to make money, and they probably don't even want the attention or responsibility of changing protocol because they don't care about it. They just have a business. They want a bottom line, and they want to continue running that business because it's probably hard enough based on how competitive it is.
Yeah, but they should care enough about money to invest in checking the code.
This is why miners upset me, is because I kind of think like a miner, where I understand that all they're thinking about is how much profit am I gonna get for the cost I'm paying in electricity. That's literally the only thing that they need to think about.
Overhead, all associated overhead of running the mining.
People, keeping the miners on. People watching to make sure that if they need to reset the miners, or people actually physically putting the miners in, paying for contractors to come in and build new space,
cooling,
air conditioners, cooling, all the overhead. Yes. So basically you take all those costs and you say, okay, now how much Bitcoin, how fast can I find it? Like that's the only thing. And so mining is a very complicated practice, but from a business standpoint, it's just very simple. I got to bring in the Bitcoin. And so that, since that's the only thing that they're worried about, then it's going to take them long to move, especially when, pretty much the entire community is saying, hey, we need this upgrade. And they're saying, hey, we don't really give a damn because we're trying to run a business here.
Something I mentioned in the interview is like, it's isn't it ironic that the people who are responsible for changing the protocol are the most apathetic to changing the protocol?
God, it's such a weird, so weird. It's like, how are we ever going to get this upgrade if they don't even give a damn? They're just like, look, I don't care.
Litecoin did it, but because it seems as though Charlie painstakingly tried to convince a lot of miners to do it.
It's because humans choose the path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. It's human. It's
like
human nature.
electrons. We're like electrons in water.
Or anything in physics and energy.
Hey, so what happens when electrons go in water? Because I don't get that.
I think they are in water.
Because there's no electrons in water?
Oh, right. Oh, there's electrolytes.
Oh, wait, no. There
I'm
aren't
being,
any, right?
I'm being highly sarcastic.
Corey, you were fucking with us, man. You can't say stuff like that, scientist. Just had me second guessing my whole life right here. I was like, wait.
Electrons in everything, guys.
Yes, I was like,
come on,
clearly
it's fucking atoms. The electrons in atoms. Period. What is matter made of? Atoms. All right. Well, there's electrons in everything.
You can't
only
just
thing
be
we feel
saying
is electrical
scientist. I just lost all credibility. 126 episodes.
Because there's no electrons in water.
You can't just say shit.
I'm gonna
Corey.
take my headphone off and run into a bus. So
this is Trump's America now. Okay, you can't just throw shit out there.
Can't just say anything. Normal science facts that you learn in preschool about the makeup of atoms. Fundamental particles.
Audience, we apologize for our massive brain fart right there. Yeah. One thing I do know though, I think if water is actually, correct me if I'm wrong on this one. If water is actually like 100% pure, it's not conductive. But the thing that makes water conductive is like all the like little metals inside of it, and
so water is it's a mixture of H and H2O, right? And two hydrogens. And
hydrogen, oxygen.
So you have an H and an OH. Right. One is positive, one is slightly negative, and so you have this mixture of slightly positive, slightly negative, and it's so it can be both, depending on what it's compared to, as well as what it attaches to. There's a lot of water is probably one of the most interesting substances there is on this planet, in terms of how useful it is and how, it's the universal solvent and break anything down. There's a lot of cool stuff about water, but yeah, it's.
I'm not allowed to know what TASER stands for, but you can know about the conductivity of water.
I have a PhD in physics and chemistry. I mean, come on. If I don't, then something's wrong.
I feel like, though. Wait. So
have you ever
or it's just not as conductive? If it's like 1 bajillion% pure, as pure as possible.
I mean, the things you put in water will change its properties, right? Like electrolytes make things salt. More conductive.
Like everything needs electrolytes. Yeah, salt water. Yeah. Everything needs electrolytes. Anyways,
how many times, Corey? How many times have you eavesdropped on a conversation and be like, "Hey guys, I know the answer to this."
A lot.
Two guys are just talking about, "Hey, is water a good conductor of electricity?" And then you just slide your chair on over and be like, "Hey, guys, I'll take this."
I'm actually not a very good chemist. Like most of my stuff was based on quantum mechanics and physics, so my chemistry knowledge is quite limited. It's only based on physical. I have physical chemistry down pat, but anything past junior level physics or chemistry, I'm pretty abhorrent. Anyway, that's not what the show's about. The show's about Litecoin, because we're the Litecoin podcast.
Yeah, we're sorry, everyone. Sorry, we're supposed to be talking about Litecoin here and how fantastic it is.
What do we take away from the interview?
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to get SegWit past. This is this is a giant step, I think, in the development of the Bitcoin protocol, in terms of the potential development of the Bitcoin protocol, because we now have a test bed, and because, in my opinion, most of the decisions that are made about the Bitcoin protocol are made in fear because people are worried about screwing things up. We now have an experiment, a side experiment, to test everything that we've been creating in Bitcoin and see how it actually works out, how it actually happens, so on and so forth. So we can say, all right, well, this seems to be working for a smaller network. And as it scales, we'll see if there's any problems with it. And so as it continues to work, if it does continue to work for Litecoin, we'll have a lot more of confidence to implement it in Bitcoin, making the changes we need to make Bitcoin scale. Whereas if this never happened, we'd never have real world experience with the technologies we've created as solutions for Bitcoin. Now we do, which means there's a higher chance we'll be able to put them into Bitcoin and people won't be so fucking scared.
Just people being so scared of things is what annoys me.
Well, it's a legitimate reason
So
to be scared, right? Like, there's a lot of people who, like, it's a big network with a lot of money in it, and people are afraid to change it because it's the fear of the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen because this is brand new territory, so we don't want to break it. Because if we break it,
yeah,
like, a lot of people will lose money, a lot of people will lose their wealth. But you're gonna have to change something. I mean, granted, if we kept it the way it is, it could be still be useful for something. It's just there's a potential of what it could be, and until we change things, we're never going to meet that potential.
you know. I mean, but you got to change something at some point, man. I think that there needs to be a massive campaign to educate the miners on what their profits could actually be should Bitcoin get these upgrades. Is anybody doing that? Is that something that we could get on the show? Listen, audience, if you're listening right now, you know somebody who's actively campaigning to educate the miners on what the two scenarios are with keeping Bitcoin stagnant or getting Bitcoin upgrades. Please tell them to contact the show so we can talk to this person and figure out, like, what are the channels to communicate to miners? Because right now it seems like they're just like, look, I'm making money. I don't care. I really don't care. Some of them want to switch to SegWit. Some of them just don't. So it's I feels like Groundhog Day sometimes. We're talking about this damn Bitcoin thing, which is why we should be talking about Litecoin, because this is the Litecoin podcast.
Yeah.
Was everybody there?
R&B intro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That
think
intro was fire.
we have one more ad to hit somebody with.
We do?
Damn right.
Yeah, let's talk about the Equibit Development Corporation. It might be our most important app because they're building several apps that are decentralizing the securities industry. If you're unfamiliar with the securities industry, it's just like the banking industry. That's why it's relevant. It's filled with centralized intermediaries that clear and settle transactions. They handle shareholder communications and a bunch of other labor-intensive work. These expensive tasks can now be replaced with peer-to-peer technologies that bring the cost of performing this work down dramatically. I'm talking about issuing companies, dealers, investors. You're all going to benefit significantly from cutting away this part of your overhead. So check out equibit.org. That's EQUIBIT.org. Sign up for the newsletter. Shout out to Nathan Wozniak, as always, and be on the lookout for their second ICO. New terms. The details will be out soon. So hold on to your butts. Oh, and we're going to be at DEF CON.
Yeah, we're going to DEF CON. DEF CON 3?
Are you going to BB World or just DEF CON?
What? What's BB World?
What's BB World?
I'm looking at pricing right now, and there's a thing called BB World where they can, I guess it's 2 events in the same venue, and if you go to both, you get like a discount. So I didn't know if we were going to both or just DEF CON.
Look at it. We'll look at it. We're going to DEF CON 3, that's for sure.
All right.
What BB World is, I don't know what that
But
is.
we're going.
DEF CON?
Are you sure? You're
Well-
not, are you looking at Ethereum DEF
Well,
CON
we
3?
have to register. We need to register
I
in the
think
next
you're
3
looking at
weeks
the
for
right
early
DEF
bird.
CON. Yeah, you're
DEF
definitely,
CON?
you're definitely not looking at the right DEF CON.
bbworld.com.
No,
well,
that's
we
not
got to
the
wrap
right
it up. We're getting sluggish. We should wrap it up. So,
Hey, your girl Zoe Saldana's got a new movie coming out.
oh yes, she does. Her and I were talking about that the other night. She was a bit stressed out about all the red carpet events she's gonna have to go to, but it was a good pillow talk sesh. She's looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy 2 coming out. So, if you guys see her, just tell her, hey, it's all good. You know, give her a shout out. We plan on going to Putt Putt sometime soon.
Here's a side note, though. I like out of the furnace Zoe Saldana. I don't like gooped up with makeup Avatar and Guardians of the Galaxy Zoe Saldana.
See, that's where we're different.
That
I got a little bit of hentai running through me.
No,
so if Alien Zoe Saldana came up to you, you'd give it a go.
I would
Learn
say,
new
hey,
things
girl,
about-
let's go get some Starbucks and later on some alcohol, and then watch some.
What about Avatar? The tail wouldn't bother you?
10-foot blue alien? Sign me up.
All right.
Sign me up.
he is an equal opportunity employer.
That's very true. Sign me up. Her feet had to be like the size of half of my body. Like, sign me up.
If you're in the feet,
In there.
And we're done.
Feeling like a backpack. Ride around town. This is my giant blue girlfriend. Anyways, this is getting weird. If you want to get us on Twitter, you can go to @the_BTC podcast. Cello runs the Twitter. He likes you guys when you tweet at him. He'll tweet back. Let's say, what else do we do? We've got a blog on Medium. If you go to Medium and you type in the Bitcoin podcast, guess what? You'll find our blogs and Ken Bosak's with Bitcoin Talk, where he talks about Bitcoin and Bitcoin accessories. You should check out his show on YouTube. It's a good job talking about Bitcoin and Bitcoin accessories. Does a lot of how-to videos. So if you have any friends that are like, what is this Bitcoin thing you've been talking about for years? I finally want to buy some now that's the highest price it's ever been. Then they can go to Bitcoin Talk and they can watch his videos and they can figure out how to buy some. What else we got doing? Oh, shout out to Block Channel. That show is going strong. A lot of good guests going on there.
Mackie bringing the heat.
Yeah, man, he gets some solid. He locks in some very solid guests doing some very solid projects in the Ethereum community. And Ethereum is so hot right now. So if you want to know a lot about,
it's like the Hansel of blockchain.
Yeah, it's so hot right now. Good stuff going on over there. What else do we do? Oh, we sell T-shirts and hats. If you go to Purse, and if you go to Purse through our website, where the affiliate link is not there anymore, is it there still?
No, I don't think so.
Shit. So if you go to purse.io and you sign up and you put in all caps BTC cast, you will sign up with us. You won't get shit, but we will get a little bit of money from all the purchases that you make from Purse.
Then you can buy our T-shirt. Well, we're making our own store. This is easy.
support the show.
Yeah, support the show. There we go.
They're comfortable. These shirts are comfortable.
Shout out to
and I collect Asian guests. So this was like our third Asian guest.
What a weird thing to say. That's a weird
really
thing to say.
Creepy way to say that, like that.
Yeah, keep them in your basement, you weirdo.
You sound like a fantasy villain.
Put the fucking lotion in the basket.
I collect Asian guests. They come on my show.
Were you rubbing your belly button when you said that?
Yeah. I was like,
our Asian guest was awesome. And that was like 60 episodes ago. So the Asian community applauds me.
It's okay. You can say that because you have Japanese tattoos.
Man, your wife's half Japanese, right? Or Korean? I want to say Korean.
She's Korean.
There we go.
Her grandfather fought in World War II, so that would be awkward.
Oh yeah. Didn't you say in that episode, Aldo, shout out to the Asian race?
Yeah,
I
totally
remember
did.
that.
Yeah, shout out. Every time there's an Asian on the show, I get a little bit more excited than I should.
You're very fond of the Asian race. Anyways, we gotta go, man. You guys ready to go?
Yeah, that's long enough.
All right, well, play the outro.